Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Rick McAvoy. This week on my blog, as an email comes in, very helpful, 10 practical steps to better architectural photography. So, I'm an architectural photographer, and in this blog post and video I'm going to give you 10 things to think about which will help you and I take better architectural photographs. Okay, so rather than going through the list, I'm going to talk about them one by one. Number 1, survey the scene. When I get out on a location, I don't just get my camera out and start taking photos straight away. I have a good look round. Now, on an architectural photography shoot, obviously, I'm there to shoot a building and I've got a client and I've got a brief. So if it was landscape photography, I'd do the same thing, but for much longer. But I still have a good look round to see the lie of the land, see what's going on, see how everything relates to everything else, and see what my best shots might be. So that's the first thing. Not a groundbreaking thing, I know, but have a good look, suss out the place. Number 2, before I take a photo, I'll put my camera on a tripod. Why do I do that? Well, it slows me down. It makes taking a photograph a deliberate act. It's a natural follow-on from having a wander around, having a good look. You don't want to rush these things. You want to take your time, get to know the place, and get your compositions right. Now, I find, it might just be me on this, but with my camera on a tripod, my compositions are much better. I spend more time framing each photo, which means that the photos I take are better. The other bonus thing of this is that I take much less photos. So I've got less photos to go through in Lightroom. It's always my aim on an architectural shoot that I will take 30 photos, and if I issue 30 photos to the client, I have really nailed it. It's never happened. Still working on it, but I used to take hundreds of photos and I'd spend a couple of hours, which is my time, I'm not being paid for this, having to sort through to find those 20 or 30 photos. So take less, better photos. You can't really go wrong if you're doing that, can you? Number 3, choose your composition carefully. Again, I take my time on that composition for hopefully that one shot. I use the camera viewfinder and the LCD screen, and I go between the two. I also have a loop view which helps me because I'm getting a bit old now, obviously, as you see by these glasses. I mean, look at how much of my head they're taking out, they're that strong. I have a loop viewer. The ones that you get these days are made by a firm called Hoodman. Now, they're not cheap, and mine was a much cheaper one from Amazon. It cost me about 20 quid about 6 years ago, and it's still working absolutely fine. So they're really handy and they help you in bright sunlight. Bit of a digression there, but entirely relevant. So I use the LCD screen, which on the Canon 6D is quite frankly rubbish, and the viewfinder, which with eyes like mine is virtually impossible to see through without having glasses on, and then you can't see at all. So yeah, if you're younger than me, look forward to getting old. 4, use the rule of thirds. I use this all the time. Rule of thirds, you've got 2 horizontal lines, 2 vertical lines on the focusing screen. Actually, I say on the focusing screen, on my Canon 6D, I bought a focusing screen that gives me that, which was very handy. What is the rule of thirds? Well, shameless plug now, if you check out the Photography Explained podcast, you'll find episodes on what the rules of composition are, including the rule of thirds. And there's also an episode titled What Rules of Composition Do I Use, which is wholly relevant to this post, but I'm not going to go into it here. Check out the rule of thirds, dead handy, and having those lines on your focusing screen makes it dead easy to get the composition right. Number 5, look at the light. Very important. What's the light doing? Is it sunny? Which direction is the sun shining on? Where is it casting shadows? What's it doing to the surface materials of a building? What's it doing to the interiors? How does it make things relate? Now, this is all part of the walking around, having a look. You can walk around and you can make the light interact in different ways. What you're looking for is to get the best look for the building, and also if you can add a sense of depth to it as well, that also helps. So the light, well, photography is drawing with light, so use the light. It's one of your best tools, and it's free. As I say far too often, what is not to love? Number 6, level up. Get your camera level. I use spirit level on my tripod. I also use, I think it's called an accelerometer, or as I like to call it, the level on the back of my Canon 6D. I've got a tripod with a geared head, so I can finally adjust the like that, but I can fine tune it with the geared head. And when I get a green horizontal line, I know that my camera's level and it's more accurate than my eyes will be. So level first. Then number 7, get your verticals right. So get horizontal right first and then do your verticals. Again, with the tripod with the geared head, you can turn the thing, the control-y knob dialy thing, and the camera will go up and down really slowly, and when you've got your verticals aligned, that's when you stop. Now, having a focusing screen with the 2 vertical lines helps with this as well. So these are all tools that you can use which aren't expensive. Buy this focusing screen once, 20 quid, I'm sure you can get them for other cameras, and you've got it forever, and it saves you time and helps you to get better photos. Okay, so one thing I will say, I'll talk about processing on another episode of my excellent YouTube channel. It says here, when you're processing an architectural photo and you've got your building 100% vertical, looks a bit strange, doesn't it? If you get Lightroom and you just go back 5% on your vertical, so you're leaning back a little bit, it makes it look more natural. Top tip there, I'll charge you now for that. Number 8, excuse me, nail the exposure. Now, if you're working professionally, it's just an expectation that you get your exposure bang on every time. How do I do it? Well, I prepare the Pitchforks purists. I use HDR. I take 3 photos, 1 correctly exposed, 1 2 stops underexposed, 1 2 stops overexposed. I do that and I chuck them together in Lightroom, and I've got more in my image than I could have done from a single image. That's it. So, what settings do I use? That's not number 9, that's part of number 8. I've set my ISO to 100. I use an aperture of f8 for most shots, or f16 if I need more depth of field. The shutter is selected by the camera. Now, don't worry about that because the camera is on a tripod, so it's not a problem. And I use my self-timer to take the photo, the 3 photos. Want to know more about camera settings for architectural photography? Well, why not check out my blog post, 13 Essential Camera Settings for Architectural Photography. It's on my blog. Just go into the search bar, type that in, and up it'll pop. It's really good. Number 9, focus. I use back button focus. Now, I don't know why I just picked up my light, but I have. Sorry, that's my problem. I use back button focus. I don't focus with the shutter release button. So I do the focus first and then I do the exposure after, because I might focus on a scene and stand there waiting for something to happen, like the lights change or something. So I want to keep the 2 separate. That's what I do. Works for me. It sounds more complicated than it is. Back button focus. Check it out on your camera. Certainly try it out. If you think it's rubbish, don't use it. You don't have to. I do, and it's great. Take the shot. Okay, I've already said this, so I'll move on. On the blog post, there's a list of the gear that I use. There's 13 bits of gear. That makes a blog post of its own, doesn't it? I think it might have been. So that's that. I'm going to stop there. Thank you for watching. I hope that you're enjoying my videos about architectural and construction photography. I have finally found my niche again. I have taken a lot of the general photography, easy for me to say, stuff which you can find on the Photography Explained podcast. This podcast has its own website, imaginatively titled photographyexplainedpodcast.com. Check that out. Check out my website, rickmcavoyphotography.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check me out on all the usual socials. Sorry, it's a Friday afternoon. It's been a long week, clearly. I've been Rick McAvoy. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.